everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Evolve with Emily show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and today you are joining me for an episode of Girl Talk. Today I have Hannah and also Amanda with me, and we are going to discuss all things fitness, nutrition, mindset, lifestyle, maybe even get into some relationships. We'll see, social media even, just kind of all things that we deal with and share some of our experiences, our advice. Hannah and Amanda are both coaches for Evolve X, so they're going to share some live coaching with us and share how they kind of tackle different struggles that they themselves have gone through or maybe a coaching client has gone through, and hopefully help some of you guys that are just listeners on the show through those same struggles, because I know that we all kind of deal with, different things at different times depending on the season that we're in. So welcome to the show, both Hannah and Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
You guys look beautiful today. If you guys are just listening, feel free to check out the YouTube video, which will be live on the the podcast YouTube. It's the Evolve with Emily show on YouTube. So if you guys would rather watch and see their beautiful faces, come over there and watch us there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So one of the questions that comes up a lot is, how do you measure progress? So what are the ways that you guys measure progress, whether it's for yourself or with a client?
So I think that the first thing that comes to people's mind when you think of like progress in your fitness goals, it's the scale. That's immediately what we think of. Like, oh, what's my weight? What's my body weight? I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 20 pounds. Immediately, that's what pops in our head. And I don't know if it's just how we've been conditioned or, what led to that, because I used to be and still struggle with being the same exact way and focusing just on that scale. But I do just want to remind everyone that the scale is just one metric of progress, and it's honestly the most fickle one. Like, it does not deserve the emphasis. Yes, it does not deserve the emphasis that we give it, and it does not deserve the primary spot, in my opinion.
Say that again. It does not deserve the primary spot. Go off, Hannah.
Does it? Damn it. But I truly believe that it is a great data point by all means, absolutely. And like, it does have a time and place, but for some reason we have like strong emotional attachment to it. And I will admit that I still suffer with this. Stepping on it in the morning can sometimes make or break my day. Like, how sad is that? That's so sad.
Why do you think that happens? Why do you think people get to a point where, like you said, stepping on the scale makes or breaks your day?
I just think we put such an emphasis on it as like our number one indicator before succeeding or failing in our fitness goal.
Wow. So what other indicators could we use?
Some of my favorites are, if you want to look at more like physical data points, measurements. I have clients who they will drop 2 inches in their waist, but their scale weight won't really move a lot, and they're upset. I'm like, wait, back up. Like, no, you should be celebrating. Because those measurements are a way better indicator of how your body's progressing and what you look like than the scale and the number on that darn thing. So I really like that one, but some other ones that are in your progress photos too are another one you can look at and compare. And I do think it's important, outside of like a contest prep, I don't find comparing photos week to week super helpful. Amanda, how do you feel about that? I feel like there's not a lot of shift.
No, I agree. I think that when we're not doing like a goal that's so physique focused, like competition prep, I think some of the factors that have been really helpful for me, I know getting out of, that kind of situation is really just trying to understand like how my body feels, especially in clothes. You know what I mean? Like, my big goal right now is comfort, and I don't even know the last time I've stepped on the scale. However, I know when I'm uncomfortable, or I know when I feel great, and I think basing it off, how you feel in your clothes, your energy levels, and other factors like that. I think those are things that we aren't conditioned to learn about, because we think, okay, our goal is just physique, or our goal is to get our weight down. So let me see what the scale says. But how about we back up and see what our body is telling us, right? So I think that is something that's really worked for me, and some of the clients that we have too that are transitioning into, like, I don't want to depend on the scale and just trying to find other factors. And that's why I love one of our check-in questions is, aside from weight, how do we feel your body has um, progressed? And the answers we get, everything from my clothes feel better, or I have more energy, or I'm able to do this and that. I think those are really important factors for people to consider as well.
I agree. And I
Yeah, no,
think yeah, and I think especially like in this, fitness world, it's amazing that people are going after these physical goals and even like competing, right? We have a lot of competitors that listen to the show. We are all competitors here. So I think for a period of time, it can be important to track that number. And, we do place some significance on it. We need to know it as a data point, like you were saying. But I think it's important to recognize when it's not really necessary to base, your progress on that number on the scale, because for me, like as a woman, I really want to feel just so comfortable when I put that dress on and I'm going out to a nice event. I want to feel really good when I'm at the beach with friends, and I want to feel so confident in my skin. And I think sometimes in the fitness industry, we can get so hyper focused on like looking an exact certain way for the stage or for a photo shoot or for whatever it is, that we forget just to focus on like when there's no mirror, when there's no photo being taken, how do I actually feel? How am I feeling in my skin? How do I feel when I put on that dress that's like a body icon type dress, right? And it's like fitted. Do I feel confident in that? Because when I feel that way, sometimes the scale actually doesn't correlate to how I feel. Like sometimes I feel incredible in those things. And yet when I step on the scale, it makes me feel a certain type of way because we're all used to, I feel like people started weighing themselves at certain times in their life that are all different, I'm sure. But, it's almost like we hang on to that number from whenever we first started weighing ourselves and we're like, this is what I am. And we like identified with this number, right? And it's just, it really is silly when you take it out of the picture. So I always tell people, if you are placing too much, significance on the scale, do a little challenge for yourself. And if you don't have to weigh in, then take like 4 weeks and literally put your scale in the closet and don't weigh in. And a lot of people think they can't do that because they have a coach, right? Maybe it's one of your clients even. And it's like, no, communicate with your coach that this is having a negative impact on your mindset and on your belief about yourself and how you feel about your progress. And you guys do it together, like how would you guys receive that as a coach if you realized that they were feeling better, looking better, but they were bothered by the scale?
That's exactly it too. I think another good challenge that I try to tell my clients, that if you are weighing in, or if you feel like you need to, answer the question, what do I feel good about myself, before you hop on the scale, right? Because what if you answer, oh, I feel amazing. This week I realized that I was able to jog for 15 minutes rather than 5 minutes, or my jeans felt so great. And then you hop on the scale and then it either didn't move or it went up. Why would you take all that great thing that you said back? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a great challenge that I do tell my clients that are checking or that are weighing in, is to answer that question first. Aside from weight, how do I feel about my progress? And I think that kind of opens their eyes to be like, okay, the scale really is only one factor, but it's not the most important, or it's maybe not even the most impactful. And I think sometimes too that when we think about health, fitness, and think about health, it has to be either or, and we don't realize that it can be together, and we can find ways to make it a healthy lifestyle while still having more um concrete physique goals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned that because I remember specifically in like a certain prep where I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, I know I look good. Like those days when you're like, I know I made progress. And then I would immediately step on the scale and my heart would sink. And I'd be like, dang, it's still there. Whereas
Go back and look at that picture that you're like,
Yes.
"Ew, I don't look good." But then 5 minutes before, you're like, damn.
yes. And here's the thing. It's like, I started practicing what you're talking about where I'd wake up and be like, how do I feel? I feel amazing. Okay. And then I would pose and take my progress pictures with that kind of energy and confidence. And I swear, like, my progress photos would turn out different based on how I felt before I took them. You know what I mean? And like, I'm sure not that different, but like, I definitely, your energy exudes through them. You know, so if you wake up thinking you look great and like you take your progress photos, you get your check-in already, let that be the guide of how you're actually doing. And then let that, you know, weight number be just like that last little thing.
I love that. And one of my other favorite measurements, and Amanda touched on it for sure, but is just your energy and strength. Like, are you crushing it in the gym? Do you have energy to go on the walk with your dog in the evening? Like, do you have the energy to to play with your kids before bed? Like, that is such one of my favorite things to hear clients say about their fitness journey, and everything is like, wow, like I can't believe how much better I feel.
Yeah. And that's like the most rewarding thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so much more than a number on this scale. Like,
Oftentimes, a beginner question that we get is when people are getting into the gym and they're like, how much weight should I lift? How do you guys answer that question? Go ahead. Hannah's like, give it to me.
pick me.
Go ahead. Just dive right in.
So the way that I direct my clients online in this question is there's going to be an experimental phase, especially if you're like a super gym, like super newbie. You're going to have to play and learn. And then if you're new, you're going to make advances relatively quick. So pick a weight. Let's say your prescribed rep range is the classic hypertrophy 8 to 12 reps, right? So what you want to do is you want to select a weight. Let's say we're doing lateral raises, 8 to 12 reps. So you grab a weight that you're like, okay, I think this is good for my first set. Like, I think I'm gonna be able to do it. And it's 10 pounds. And you crank out 12 really good reps where you're really focused on the mind muscle connection. You can feel the eccentric, the stretch in the muscle and the contraction. You can feel the muscle working. And you get like 12 and you're like, well, that wasn't too bad. I could have done 18. That weight is too light. Okay, bump it up. So let's say we're like, all right, let's jump up. Let's grab the 20s. We jump up 10 pounds. That's a lot in the lateral raise, guys, but
that is a lot.
We're doing a little bit of a hyperbole here. But let's say that you grab those 20s and you're, all right, I'm ready, set 2, 8 to 12 reps. And you hit rep 3 and you're swinging your body and you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff to get that weight up, and you're not really feeling it so much in your shoulders like you were before. That weight is too heavy. All right, drop it down. So what we want is somewhere within that 8 to 12 reps, you're hitting that point where you're like, wow, I don't think I can do another rep, but most of my reps before, my mind muscle connection was great. I felt the squeeze in the target muscles. I felt the contraction. And this weight seemed appropriate. Like, I could only get 10 reps, but that 10th rep was really, really hard. Cool. That's perfect. That 15-pound weight right in the middle, that's probably your sweet spot. Goldilocks.
That's such a good example and way to describe assessing your own weight. And I think, you know, that's what we have to do with a lot of different things, whether it's, you know, macros or training or whatever. A lot of this is just kind of experimenting and trying to figure out what works for you individually. And I also really want to empower people that are training and in the gym, whether they're new or they've been there a long time, that there is no shame in doing some weights, doing 3-4 reps, realizing that you're not doing pretty reps and putting the weight down. Like, how many of you guys have had to do that for yourselves? Like, I definitely have. And okay, but I want to know, and I'm actually curious, so let me know what your answer is. But whenever you've like put the weights down, like you grab some weights, you think you got it, you start doing it and you're failing miserably. Whenever you put them down, does the thought ever come in your head like, oh, people know that I just failed at this, or I look stupid, or like any of those thoughts that are like, oh, I'm an idiot, I can't do this, like kind of like the self-conscious, I wonder what people are thinking?
It used to be that way until I was like, oh, I'm just going to pretend I'm doing a drop set and make it look like I know what I'm doing.
I love you. She goes, I'm just going to pretend I'm doing a drop set.
But I am all about trying to work this confident thing. And if I can only get 3, then be like, yeah, I'm doing a drop set. Look at me. Like,
she's like, look, I'm doing a pyramid.
Yeah. And just to go at that too. And I think that's something that is important to address too, is that, you know, when we start working in the gym and then we start going heavier and heavier, we're like, hell yeah, this and that. I don't know about you, but some weeks, whether it's I just train too hard or if I'm just sore or whatever, we get so down that we can't do as much as we did last time. And then instead of, pushing through, I think we get frustrated. We're like, okay, I'm done with this workout. Like, we're done here, right? And I think something just like your with nutrition is understanding your body and understanding what it needs. So something that I tell my clients is if you're just feeling like you just cannot lift that weight or however your body's functioning, just switch it up, right? So maybe go light and then do shorter rest periods, do more sets, and you're still going to get that workout that you needed. It's just going to be a different level, right? So instead of working on heavy weights, now we're working more on endurance and things like that. So I think that's important too, is to know that you can, even though you have a training plan, you can still adjust from it depending on like what your body needs at that time.
And I think what's really important to bounce off that too is it's a learning experience right there, because you can be like, wow, I feel a little tired today. I feel a little weak. I don't feel like as strong as I did last week at this movement. Take a look at what you've done. Like, what did you do? How did you eat the day before? What did you eat? Did you get enough sleep? Is your water intake good? That's an opportunity to examine your habits too and make sure, like, okay, well, obviously, last night I got my 6 hours of sleep instead of my regular 7.5. Apparently, that's impacts me quite heavily. So I need to prioritize that a little bit more. So, just like learn from it.
Wow, oh my gosh, that is so important because so many times people think, they'll think, oh, maybe it's just, what I'm doing on this day. But what you're encouraging them to do is actually look at the last couple of days and see all the different factors that could be affecting you today. And there's another thing too, especially being females, is our hormones change so much throughout the course of the month. And there are different things that we experience. There's different parts of the phase of our cycle. We can experience things like loss of strength, loss of stamina. And so we may go in the gym like really mentally ready, but maybe physically our bodies aren't able to perform at the same level. So I think, Amanda, going back to what you were talking about, it's really important to be self-aware and start to listen to where your body's at and giving it what it needs. And then also mentally setting yourself up for success. So I definitely have been in those gym sessions where, I love to train hard. I love to lift heavy AF. I love to hit my numbers all the time. But sometimes I go in there and I'm like, wow, I am a weakling. And I could just sit there and think that and tell myself that, or I could be aware and say, my strength is not there today. I know how I can perform on a good day, but my strength isn't here. So like what you were saying, Amanda, maybe today I can't do the 8 reps or the 12 reps, but maybe I could do less weight, do perfect reps and do more of a higher weight type of thing, right? And then what's funny is I've really practiced this in my life to where I'll change the workout and all of a sudden I feel successful. I feel accomplished. I feel good about myself. I'm glad that I finished the workout. And it's like, you got to ask yourself, what is going to give me the end result that I'm looking for? If I quit right now and I get down on myself and I tell myself I'm not strong and I, belittle myself, am I going to feel good at the end of this session, walking out and going home early? The answer is probably no. So how can I set myself up for success? And then executing on that. And I think it takes practice. I think it takes a lot of patience with yourself and of a willingness to pivot, and I think whether it's something in your fitness or in your business or in a relationship, when you find that something is not working, be willing to pivot, to learn, and to choose a different route until you can find what is successful. I always say one of the most powerful things that you could have is the willingness to figure it out, right? So many times people are like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, so can't. They say the word can't. And I'm like, number one, get the word can't out of your vocabulary. Like that is not allowed in this house. So what is something else that you guys see people really struggle with in their, fitness or health journey?
Kind of just to go off what you were saying about pivoting, I think something important to know too is that your goals can change, right? And so your plans can change. So maybe right now your goal is your physique goals. And so we're doing more of like a structured plan and macro plan and this and that. And maybe in the process, you're realizing that you kind of want to focus a little bit more on your mindset goals or your health goals or things like that. So then it's, adjusting to whatever it is you need. So I think that's also important too, is just to adjust and be okay with changing your goals, because changing your goals doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you're realizing that your energy deserves to be somewhere else that you can give all of it to.
I think that's so important because sometimes people can be so married to the plan that they're on or to the path that they've chosen that they're unwilling to choose a different path or to jump into the next season of life, even when everything in life is telling them, hey, it's time to go to the next season. You know, I just interviewed a friend on the podcast who just retired from 20 plus years of bodybuilding and being on stage. He's an incredible athlete. So like, just imagine all the, you know, feelings and thoughts that he's having after, you know, having to say, okay, the store's closed now after dedicating my whole life to it. Right. And I think, you know, we can experience that in maybe smaller ways, especially when transferring from maybe like on season when you're competition prep, or even on season for people who don't compete, but maybe they're going in a fat loss phase. Right. And they're in that push season that we often refer to where they're crushing it, they're killing it, they're on their program. You know, you can't be like that 100% of the time for the rest of your entire life. There is another season and a phase that's got to come. And so I think it's important when to recognize that it's time to enter into a new season. So Hannah, I know that you're actually experiencing this right now as you go from competition prep into an off season. So, you know, what is either like a struggle that you see during that transition time, or what is a like mindset shift that helps you, or maybe both if you have both? What's something you can share to that transition period?
So, you know, one of the big common things that pops up is going to be the way that you look at yourself and the way that you view your body. Because if you're going from a fat loss phase or a competition prep, regardless of like the intensity level of it, you're going from, you know, being a little bit leaner and like seeing all your lines, seeing your abs, like, look at me, whoo, I look like a badass, to looking like not that, you know, and you don't look bad. Okay. People who go through these phases, I promise you, I'm speaking to myself as well. Like you look fine. You look great. So a little bit of that like body dysmorphia, you know, is natural. But I always say like what's really important is to catch your thoughts as they happen and take control before emotions do.
Wow.
And redirect it, right? So it's like, okay, you're so used to, say, your abs, right? So maybe instead of focusing on, oh, I don't have any abs, focus on something else. Maybe your arms are getting filled out or your booty is getting filled out, and be like, ooh, you know, and so redirect your focus and redirect like where you can find confidence in your body. Because I know that's something that really helped me when I was going through it, was realizing that instead of like pinpointing what I couldn't see anymore, pinpoint the good things that I was seeing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's really important too, like, because in a fat loss phase or in a contest prep, your goal is physique. What do you look like? Who cares what you can do? Who cares how much you can shoulder press? Who cares if you can run 5 miles?
Hey, I care how much I can shoulder press. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding at all.
Would you rather shoulder press 50s or get those hamstring or glute hamstring tie-ins that you know, like, we got priorities during
right. You're right.
But
I want to do both. I want it all. Give it to me all. I want to lose fat and gain muscle and be strong and be beautiful and be balanced. Isn't that all of our clients?
Let me know.
We'll bottle it up and sell it. The Evolve X juice.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. But one of my favorite things to do is shift instead from what do I look like to what can I do? Like more performance-based goals. So like, you know, right now I instead I'm focusing on activity that's outside of the gym. So my husband and I went and played pickleball for an hour on Sunday morning. And
that is so cute.
I got way fired up. I made him play left-handed because
stop.
He's too good. And I'm like, why have you been secretly practicing pickleball? Like, what is happening?
Have you secretly been practicing? Yeah, he goes out to the courts at 5 a.m.
Something is happening. But so, you know, find other endeavors. Like, I'm a very active person, so like I still have to be doing things. So like, you know, I'm on the hunt for a surfboard on Facebook Market because I don't want to buy one brand new full price. You know, like little things like that. Like, what do you like to do? I am getting back into gymnastics and handstands and more core work. Like, I went and took a private lesson at a gymnastics facility, you know, like little things like
I'm
that.
so proud of you.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Yes, go get after those hobbies.
Yes, other hobbies that you have. I won't lie. It was the first time I was ever like, damn, I am 30.
Oh my gosh. You'll get it back though. A few sessions practicing, you'll get it back.
But yeah, like find other things to focus on outside of like, what do I look like? Think, what can I do?
Mm-hmm. Or even what do I now have time for, right? Because we're not so focused on just our bodies. It's like, what do I now have time for?
Yeah. And I think body dysmorphia is something that I feel like a lot of people struggle with, competitors and lifestyle clients and everyone in between. And so I think, if you find that you're just focusing on that so much, like some people will say, like, all I can think about is how I look and how I'm, fitting in these things. I would say, one, be rational and be realistic with the sense that, okay, this is where I'm at. But then two, get into action to put yourself in a good position. Meaning, if you're really uncomfortable with how your clothes are fitting, you're not feeling confident, and that's allowing you to look in the mirror and pick yourself apart, you got to say, okay, what is helping me get to my destination? And picking yourself apart is not going to help you. It's going to make you feel worse. It's going to make you be negative. When you're negative, you're vibrating on this really low energy, vibration level. And that's going to transfer into every part of your life. So you've got to be the one that builds yourself up from the inside out. So if right now you're not feeling comfortable with things, number one, go buy some clothes that fit, even if it's just a few pairs of clothes. But then number two, get into action to improve yourself as you work towards your goals. It's okay to love yourself and to be kind to yourself as you work to make progress and to make change. So don't feel like it's fake for you to practice self-love, even if you're not really loving what you're seeing. And I would say also just take some time away from the mirror if you have to. I remember in one of my really difficult body dysmorphia like phases that I had, I legitimately had to not look in the mirror at all. And I was like, I know one day I'll be able to do that again and it'll be fine. But for right now, I'm going to be really honest with myself. And if I'm being really honest, I really can't look in the mirror without being so horrible to myself. You know what I mean? And so then I did what you guys are saying, and I really focused on those other things in my life and fitness, and went for more walks outside and just kind of switched my focus in general. So hopefully that helps, those out there that are listening that struggle with that, to know that you're talking to 3 competitors. We've all, competed a bunch of times. We've been at every kind of level, and we've all dealt with it, and so you're not alone if you're dealing with it. But there are things that you can do. And one of the things you have to do is switch your focus and simply just choose not to stay there.
And I think also to honestly be true to where you're at, to be true to what season you're in. Because I know for me, I went through a phase where it's like, yeah, I'm in improvement season. I'm going to get stronger, this and that. But in reality, all I can think about was trying to keep my abs or trying to do this and that. So I wasn't really being true to this season so I was holding myself back from what I needed to do. So I think that's a huge one, is really, really committing and being honest with yourself and being true to whatever season that you're in.
That's so important. And I've learned that a lot in my life, to recognize when I'm resisting the season that I'm in. Right. So, and that's the thing, is like when you're in alignment with the season that you're in, everything just flows. And when things are not flowing, it's a clear sign that there's something that's out of alignment. And like you're saying, it could just be your mentality, right? Like you're clearly in improvement season, yet you're trying to hang on so much to the past, to the last season, and that could transfer to any area of life, right? Like say that you are going through a breakup and all you're doing is reminiscing on that relationship. And it's like you're resisting the season that you're in. You've got to be real with yourself and say, I'm going through a breakup and I need to handle these emotions. I need to journal. I need to talk to somebody. I need to do things that are good for myself. I need to process these emotions that I'm having and go forward and not keep looking, towards the back. If you keep looking at the back, that's always going to keep you stuck. And here's the thing, even though life can get really hard sometimes and difficult, and we all go through things like breakups or changing, directions on our path that we never thought we would have to change to, or whatever it is. And it can be really hard, but the sooner that you just face it head on, the sooner you can process through it. And then the sooner you get to the beautiful part of life again, right? Because life is like this, I used to have this bracelet that I would wear, and I'm not really sure where it went, but it was a bracelet that was all one color beads. And then there were 2 color beads that were opposite from each other. one was a black bead and one was a white bead, right? And the white bead represented like all of the goodness in life and the almost like those hilltop high moments that we all kind of like work for. Maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's graduation or winning a show or accomplishing something you worked really hard for. It's all those moments. And then, the opposite of that represented the really low moments in life. And as you go around like the little circles in the circle of like a bracelet, you would reach a low moment, right? But then you would keep going. And the majority of the time was actually spent in, the beads on the way to that white bead, right? To that great hilltop moment. Then you reach it. And then guess what? You keep going again. And not to say that it's always going to be good, bad, good, bad. But if you can understand that there's always a good moment ahead, then that should keep you going in those really difficult moments to realize, hey, I just need to keep putting one foot in front of the other and I'm going to reach a good moment again. I'm going to reach, a healthy relationship that I'm really happy in. I'm going to reach my fitness goal. Finally, I am. And I think, that's something that we try to really help our clients focus on is like envisioning that version of themselves that has reached their goal and getting into the feeling of like what that's going to feel like when they're embodying that mind, body, and soul. But in order to get there, one of the things that we focus on a lot with our clients is their mindset, because it's not just about training in the gym or eating, the proper food. Those are absolutely foundational elements, but it's also about your mind, right? Because I think we've experienced a lot with our clients how sometimes it's their mindset that's holding them back. What do you guys see in some of the clients that you've had or experiences where it's their mindset that's holding them back? And how do you help those clients like work through those limiting beliefs essentially in order to get them into a healthy spot mentally?
Well, I think one thing it's important to know that we all go through it and it's okay to feel those feelings. It's just about what we do next, right? And I know that speaking from experience, I felt like I was going through something the last couple months or weeks or whatever it was. And it's acknowledging in it and not staying stuck in it. You know what I mean? And being like, okay, what do I do next? And having the accountability. Like, I know that I reached out to you both and I was like, I need something. Like, I know I'm in the rut and I don't want to stay there. I stayed there for too long, even too long as maybe even a day, right? It's just knowing that like you can identify what you're going through, which I think is super healthy. So don't, give yourself a little bit of grace if you're feeling guilty for being in a rut, because it's totally healthy to feel those feelings. But now it's like, what do I do next? So I think for me, I think the biggest thing was shifting my mindset and saying, okay, this is just a season. This is just a situation, but what can I do to better or add more value to myself to get to my goal or just to get out of a funk or whatever it is. So I think some of like the mindset shifts I made was journaling and meditation. I know those are two things that have really really helped me. And actually like being in it. I think sometimes when we think journaling or like gratitude, it's like we quickly say, "Oh, I'm grateful for this and this." But it's like, when you're writing it, are you really feeling it? Are you really, really like in those feelings? Like, are you really being present and taking whatever 15 to 20 minutes to really journal and really write down your thoughts? Or are you just going through the motions? Because I think that's a huge difference. And I think that was like kind of a reality check for me that for a minute, I think I was just doing it to be like, "Ooh, I journal now," or whatever, or you know what I mean? But I think it's really like dedicating that time to your mindset. And I know that's been a tremendous shift for me. And I know that that's something that our clients are realizing too. And I think one thing is night journaling. I don't think I know Emily, you have your journal that has morning and night. And I think night is so powerful. Um, and what it does too, and I just had a client who was working on this, is one of the things is looking back on your day and saying, okay, what was my win for the day? And what I love about it is that it makes you think outside the box, right? Because I think sometimes we think too hard to be like, okay, what was something nutrition related or training related? But it could be something like, for example, the other day I really couldn't think of anything. And I'm like, what did I do good today? And then I really just like sat there and let myself think. And it was just having a good conversation with somebody. I think it might have been you, even Hannah, the other day. But then you know what it does? You know what it makes you realize? It makes you realize, okay, I am lacking in connection or I'm lacking in conversation. So then it prepares you to go after it the next day, right? So whether it's, talking to people more or a goal, but it just allows you to understand, again, going back to what do I need? What does my body need? What does my mind need? And I think that's like one of the biggest impacts of journaling at night.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So question, how do you personally meditate? Do you follow a guided meditation? Do you do it on your own? What has been your experience been with getting into that? What helps you?
So I use an app. Um, and honestly, you can tailor it to what you need. Like I do anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes, but I'm really in it. I really concentrate on my breath. And the thing is, you can utilize that anywhere. Like I will be at my desk and I'm like really anxious or I've got so many things to do. And maybe I don't have 5 minutes. I mean, you can make 5 minutes, but I just take one deep breath or, I take a breath from it, but it's really just learning like what it does to you. And it's not just simply taking breath. It's really, like I said, like being in the moment and being present and really understanding what is it doing to your body right now? Like, what is it doing to your mind? And then using that like any time of the day. So I know I use an app called Headspace, which I feel like has been very helpful for me.
Yeah, that's a very popular one. I've been using a YouTube channel called Great Meditation, and it's either 5-minute meditations or 10-minute meditations. And I love it. Like anytime I can do the 10-minute, I do it, but sometimes all I have is 5. And it always just completely puts me in a different space. So I've been trying to do that on most days. I don't get every day, but I do try to do it most days. And I think, overall what we're talking about here is that we've each found some different like foundational elements that have really benefited our lives in a positive way, whether it's journaling or meditation or going for a walk or getting involved in new hobbies or whatever it is. There's always something that you can do to make your mind, your headspace like in a better spot. So, Hannah, what is something that you do that helps you in moments of feeling like you're in a rut or feeling like you're stuck? It could be a rut like in the gym. I know we've all kind of gone through that before, where you just feel like you're not excited about training anymore, or what do you do when you're in a rut?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned this because I do have a question for you guys later. But so when I'm in a rut about something, I think what's most helpful is to make a plan and take action. Like just do it. Like for me, it's getting into the action and getting back into the consistency or getting into the consistency of something. Because it's anytime we do something, it's not perfect. And I don't know about you guys or the listeners, but I'm very much like like I want to do this, but like I don't know yet. Like I don't know everything. I want to know everything. Like that's a very bad habit of mine, and I'm trying to work on just taking action. I think Emily, I think your first podcast was about messy action.
It is, yes. And then I did one years later, actually in this podcast studio. The very first one that I did was again taking messy action. I was like, I literally feel like a beginner all over again, right? Because the first podcast ever, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to press record and I'm going to jump into action, right? And then all of a sudden, years later, I'm in this great podcast studio, but now I'm like, I don't know how to do this equipment. This is all new to me, even though it's, still a podcast. And that's the thing is like, it's okay not to know. And if you think you're going to have all the answers before you start, like let life surprise you a little bit, because life will tell you real quick that even if you think you had the perfect plan or, you felt like you knew everything, you're going to discover new things, and your experience is probably going to be not exactly what you thought it was going to be. So learning just to like trust yourself too, to know that as you find new information, you'll apply it, right? It's kind of like people who, are scared and don't want to go really and commit to somebody in a relationship because they're like, well, what if it doesn't work out, right? And they're just in this like scared spot of what if it doesn't work out? And it's like, look, stop looking for wisdom and advice from everybody else and trust yourself and just make the decision. And here's the thing, you will figure it out. Like if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You'll pick yourself back up. Just use your best judgment, but really learn to trust yourself, because I know, people hear this all the time. Like, better than anyone else. Better than a coach, a parent, a whatever. Like no one's you. So you have to go with that gut instinct and really listen to your intuition, not with the perception that you're always going to be right, but just that you're making the best possible decision that you can make for yourself today. So, Amanda, I feel like you're very good about being in tune with your body and giving yourself what it needs and listening to your intuition. So what is something that helps you, or maybe like what has been your journey with listening to your intuition? How have you learned to practice that in your life?
I think the biggest shift was understanding my why and also letting go of my ego. And I think it was letting go of having to have this identity or having to just change course or whatever. And it's just kind of like we said, like it's okay to shift your goals. So I think that was a big thing, is to let go of that and be brave enough to change and then keep that why in the back of your head, right? So I think for me, I think just taking the pressure off my physique or appearance or whatever and shifting it to health, I think that in general really has helped me make the decisions I make today, right? Because it's not so much about like, oh, I can't eat that or this is bad or whatever, but now I think like, is this going to add value to me, or is this going to help my goals? Or I kind of think of it as a health perspective now, not so much like literally it has nothing to do with a diet other than like, is this healthy for me, right? And I think that's been really, really helpful for my body, and just understanding what it needs, because it's kind of like when you crave things, you don't really necessarily crave things that you don't ever eat, right? And so if I can just, trust my body that I can learn what it needs and that's healthier foods, and I think that's just been really helpful for me to make those choices. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just taking the pressure off a physical and then just shifting it to health. And it's just all about, rewiring your brain or retraining your brain to different words that you use around yourself. One, like the other day, I had a client who had said, oh, I felt skinnier today. And I was like, well, let me ask you, why did you use the word skinny? So then you kind of think about it, right? She thought about it and she was like, okay, confident. And see how much better she felt. So then she started going off and why she felt confident in this and that. And that's like the whole point, right? Is to kind of steer away from words that, we were brought up with skinny, small, whatever, and using more words like I feel healthier, I feel energetic, I feel confident. So I think it's just having that mindset that health can have so many different definitions, I guess, and it doesn't just have to be about your physique.
Oh, that was went off. That was good.
I know, that was really good. So one thing that we do in our program is we ask every single individual client, what is their why? So Hannah, could you explain from a coach's standpoint why it's so important that we know each individual's why? She's ready to go off. She's snapping.
Absolutely. So I like to know whys because I want to dig deeper. Like first off, we want to know why because we want to know you as a client. I don't want to know you as a number or a name that pops up each week. Like I want to know you as a human. Why do you want the goals that you want? So when a client comes to me and they're like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. Why? So I'll love myself more and I'll feel better. Okay, cool. But I want to dig deeper. Like, I want to know, like, why though? Like, why 10 pounds? Like, what is significant about that? And then you have to find out, like, well, I just, ever since I've gained this weight when, let's say the quarantine happened and like I wasn't able to go to the gym and I just, I feel like I lost my me time and I don't have time for myself anymore. And, that was something I was really into. And now I've lost that hobby. I feel like I've lost myself a little bit. So yeah, they want to lose the 10 pounds, but really they want to get back to who they were. Like they want to have that time for themselves and they want to be themselves again. Or you can have a client who says like, oh, I want to lose like 15 pounds post-pregnancy or something along those lines. And in reality, like, you know, they're like, well, I had my kid like 3 years ago. They're 3 years old now, and I'm still hanging on to this weight. I don't know what to do. I feel terrible. But if you dig deeper, like really their why is I want to be able to keep up with my kid, and I want to be around when for as long as I can for them, like in their life and for their kids. So it's really their deeper health. And the reason to know that is important because, you know, if it's like my goal is to lose 10 pounds and somebody hands me a cookie, my willpower is not very strong. I'm like, whatever, like one cookie, that's fine. But if my goal is to get back to myself, a healthier version of me, to feel more confident, to get back into my routine, and to be known as that person who prioritizes their health and their fitness. You hand me a cookie, shit, I'm gonna turn that down. No, thank you.
Yeah.
That's in line with my goals.
Girl, I just got chills. That's so good.
And it's so true because I think that when they kind of, you know, say they don't follow plan or they're having a bad week, you just remind them of their why. You know what I mean? And I think that's exactly it, is that now that we've dug deeper, what it also creates is they can trust us, right? And they feel more open to open up, and it's not just like you said, you're not just a number, you're not just a whatever, but we truly are invested in whatever goals that you want to share with. And I think that client coach connection is so important, and I think that's what I love about our program, is that we ask so many questions that make them dig deeper to find out more about themselves, but also to continue building that relationship with us.
And I think that points out too, like our check-in process. Amanda and I had a Zoom call the other day. And we're like, all right, let's try to whittle this down. And we're like, but like, we can't, because I want to know everything.
Exactly. But I think that, you know, people sometimes think that they're coming to us for, you know, fitness and nutrition, whether they're working with us or with somebody else. But really, it's like by asking these questions every single week, what it really does when you're the one that's checking in, you're having to answer these questions, it really gets you to stop and become very self-aware to wherever it is that you currently are, right? So maybe like how, kind of to circle back to the beginning where we were talking about weight, maybe you didn't hit your weight goal, but then by answering all these questions, you realize your life has significantly improved. Like you are having more confidence when you're at the lake this weekend, you know, with family. You're having more self-will when there's brownies around, and you actually said no because you're really committed to feeling like that most confident version of yourself, and you're hanging on because you already see a little bit of progress, that, you know, you had more willpower this time, and you're noticing your mindset's different. And so by asking those questions and going deep with people, it really improves their self-awareness, so that long after they're done working with us or working with somebody else, they're able to do this for themselves. And I think that's one thing that I will say that we as a team do very well, is we empower people to continue these lifestyle habits and choices and way of living and mindset way beyond their time with us. And that is, to me, the measure of a successful coach, is somebody who shows you the way.
Absolutely. I actually had a check-in today with a client who, she's done the graduate program. She's done like the original Evolve X, but she's going out on her own now. And one of my questions for her was like, what have you learned? Like, what are you going to keep doing? Let me know. And then she told me like all of the gym routine that she learned, getting up early, having the discipline to get up early in the morning, finalize and stick to her morning routine, and like all these skills and like things that she's going to keep doing in the future. And I was like, all right, cool. That's awesome. I'm so glad that like you feel confident and able to take these things into your life on your own now, and like not need me there anymore. But hey, I'm here if you need anything, just shoot me an email.
Yeah. And this is something one of the clients said earlier this morning, was that she was talking about shifting her mindset from, you know, not trying to force uncontrollables or whatnot. And she had mentioned, like, if I didn't have this program, I wouldn't have the tools to get through what I was doing. And so that's exactly it. That's exactly the point of this program, is to help you identify those tools that are going to be best for you, right? And you can take those tools beyond the program, and that's the whole point. So I think that's I'm glad that you guys touch on that, because that really is the point. Like I think obviously I love to work with everyone, but I think it's so great when we know that, they've learned so much about themselves and they can venture on. And something about the mindset too, something that really stuck with me about one of the graduates was how she was saying, if we could measure her mindset progress, then she lost 1,000 pounds.
That's
And
awesome.
that
Oh,
is like huge to me.
That's so rewarding. Oh my gosh. Because
beautiful.
listen, like we all know, like mindset is everything. Your mindset, it dictates everything. It dictates how you show up for yourself, how you show up for others. So it's not just like, I built a cool mindset, cool. Like that's going to change the trajectory of her life. That's going to change how she shows up, how she commits to things, how she manages her time, how she manages, even her fitness goals or, changing seasons in life. Like there's just so much there that I think is so valuable. And I think it's important that we speak on it because I think especially in the day and age of social media and Instagram, people can get really hyper focused on just having abs. And it's like, no. Like that is maybe the icing on the cake if you get there, if that's a goal that you have, if you even care about that, that's great. Like go ahead. Anyone can technically do it. But what about like your mindset? What about your soul? What about your happiness? What about your fulfillment? What about your communication? What about all these other things that make up a fulfilled life? And I think that's what we do a good job of focusing on is really helping people to find fulfillment within their own lives as they seek to create change and to make progress in their life. Well, girls, this has been such an incredible podcast. I hope that everyone listening is able to apply some of the advice and tools and tips that we've given them. And if you did, then please do us a favor and share this on your Instagram. Make sure to tag Hannah, Amanda, myself, and the podcast Instagram page. Girls, thank you guys so much for being on today.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. And if any of you guys are interested in taking it a step further in learning more about the EvolveX program, you can actually click the link down below. You're welcome to register if we have some spots open. The link will be open and live. And if you want more information, we do have a link where you can book a call and talk to somebody on the EvolveX team. And they'll answer any questions that you have to see if it's a good fit for you. And if we're not open and the link is not live, you can get on the wait list. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Evolve with Emily. Rate and review the show if you haven't done that yet already. That's how the show grows. And thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.